All right, welcome in everybody. This is Todd with Zilla Fantasy Elite. Welcome to the Week 8 DFS show, where we're going to take a peek at the adjusted line play and see what kind of plays we might have this week. And just to give a brief rundown on here, we have on this particular thing, we have Atlanta and Carolina here, but just to kind of reiterate what this shows us, on the left side here, we have our passing stuff. On the right side, we have the running aspect of each team's offense and defense. For the away team, you got the defense, pass rush, and then the offense, pass rush. And then on the right side for the run blocking, offense, defense, where on the home team, you got offense, defense, defense, offense. So it's just kind of flip-flop there. And what we're looking at is this person's pass protection versus this person's pass rush. This person's pass protection against this person's pass rush. So anytime that we get a green, that means they're in the top 10. Anytime a red, they're in the bottom 10 for the league. So we kind of look for these matchups that are green and reds together. And if, we have a green pass protection like here, with a red pass rush from the defense, that signals to us that that quarterback's likely going to have more time in the pocket on any given down, which is probably going to lead to the ability to throw it more downfield. So you look at something like that where you'd have a nice wide open guy downfield. So you'd expect potentially in this game some deeper bombs, but it is at Cleveland, and that might have like 45-mile-an-hour winds. So that's kind of how that works. This particular matchup here has both Cleveland winning on the offensive pass protection and the run blocking side here. And given the windy conditions, with this run blocking top 3 in the league, Las Vegas 23rd there, so they're one of the worst teams in the league. We're going to go ahead and peek at this 53.5 point total. So Vegas has it scoring a bunch. Like I said, there could be some really, really nasty weather conditions as that hurricane that kind of came up through the Gulf makes its way up into the plains there. For this game, I would expect if there's a ton of wind, you're going to have really short and intermediate routes really dominating this game in general. And we'd be looking at DFS plays, and this is Week 8 on Thursday before the Halloween games kind of come up. We're just going to find where these little odd matchups are and see if we can't highlight a few areas that we can look at. So this I'd be looking at Cleveland likely going to have some time, and if it's super windy, the underneath routes. So I'd be looking probably at Jarvis Landry and then the tight end over there, Harrison Bryant, probably having the highest reception totals in the game, but probably not super high yardage volume in that particular game because of the wind. I'm really interested in the running game here. Cleveland, third in run blocking. Las Vegas, really terrible against the run on the defensive side, and they do give up a lot of fantasy points besides just what the adjusted line play shows. So I'd be really high in Kareem Hunt this week, especially if those weather conditions are bad. Short to intermediate routes, as we said before. Like, he's probably going to be getting quite a few pass attempts or reception targets, and I would expect him to be getting a ton of volume on the ground too as that storm system kind of rolls through, and that does have a higher total. And let's go kind of through some of these other ones. We have offensive pass protection for Indianapolis, bad pass rush for Detroit. So I'd expect Indianapolis probably going to have a little bit more time to throw the ball against Detroit. That is a pretty good line play matchup there. Indianapolis, all right, let's see. Who's going to be the deep target there? You might be thinking T.Y. Hilton, although he's kind of washed up. The guys that have been getting the deep targets over in Indianapolis the last few weeks with Pittman out and with Paris Campbell out have been Marcus Johnson, who I highlighted in the Week 6 play as somebody that was kind of a deep sleeper that you could pick up and start in your DFS leagues, or if you needed somebody last second. He did go off for 5 catches, 108 yards, and a touchdown, I believe, in that game. Not 100% sure if he scored, but Those would be the two guys. It'd be Marcus Johnson and Ashton Doolin that I'd be looking at for some of these deeper DFS plays, especially if you're really trying to max out some high-end people in this slate. This is an indoor game with a 50-point total, so put that in your book too. There's not going to be any weather problems in this particular game. No other red-green matchups necessarily in here other than Indy really good against the run, Detroit not necessarily good at run blocking. So I think where Detroit's going to make their hay is in the pass game, and they'll probably end up moving to that during this game. A couple red greens in here. Pittsburgh, number one against the pass rush. Baltimore, not a very good pass protection offensive line there, so I think Pittsburgh's going to get after Baltimore, which means Lamar's probably going to be flushed out of the pocket quite a bit more. I'd expect Lamar actually to have more rush attempts in this game than you might otherwise expect. If that is the case, I'm not exactly sure how Pittsburgh is at containing the quarterback, but Lamar Jackson is somebody that I expect to have quite a few more rush attempts in this game just from being flushed out of the pocket. That also means shorter attempts or short yardage situations there. So when you're looking at Baltimore, potentially a Devin Duvernay, and you'd be looking at the tight end, of course, over there. Pretty much any week, but this week especially if they're going to get after the quarterback, you could be looking at Mark Andrews, and as I said before, Devin Duvernay is kind of the underground person that you'd want there. And then Pittsburgh's actually also on the defensive side, number one against the rush as well, and most people know that already. So Baltimore, not a very good run defense either, which means I don't think Baltimore is actually going to be very successful in offense in this particular game. Their defense is strong. Pittsburgh's offensive run blocking not very strong. They're middle of the pack there, but their offensive pass protection is pretty good. So Baltimore's secondary is somewhat beatable. I would expect Pittsburgh to be able to move the ball a little bit more through the air because they kind of negate the Baltimore pass rush there. And this line 3.5, I have Pittsburgh winning this in my Pick'em league because I'm not a super fan of Baltimore's run blocking or pass blocking against Pittsburgh's number one rated defense there. So as far as fantasy is concerned on that, Pittsburgh actually might be a sneaky play as far as their defense. They're always in play week after week, just in general with how good they are at everything on the defensive side, but people might be shying away with Baltimore there. Otherwise, Mark Andrews and Devin Duvernay on Baltimore side. We got a red-green matchup here, New England and Buffalo. Buffalo's pass protection 9th, New England actually 23rd in the defensive pass rush. I'm not exactly sure what Buffalo's situation is going to be for wind and rain and all that with this particular storm system coming, but it's always kind of windy up in that area anyway. But look for a potential for John Brown, who did practice Wednesday. I didn't see what the practice report showed today, but look for John Brown or Stephon Diggs to potentially come down with a longer reception in this game if it's not crazy windy. Josh Allen does have a strong arm to get it through that wind, so I think he's going to be someone that's a little less affected by this wind if it's super strong. Stephon Gilmore, I expect to be on Stephon Diggs in this game. Diggs is good enough to get open against the best in the league, so I expect him to be able to get open, but that means John Brown's not going to be getting the superstar treatment, and I could see John Brown having one long touchdown in this particular aspect. And there's no other red green matchups there, so we're just going to skip to the next one. Kansas City, New York Jets. We have a red green here. Kansas City's pass protection offense against New York Jets' weak pass rush. Obviously, Kansas City's passing offense is amazing. And if you actually look, Jets are 4th in defensive adjusted line for rushing, and Kansas City's run blocking is just middle of the road there, or top end of the middle of the road. But I expect Kansas City actually to pass all over the Jets, and then I think that's just going to how they're going to kind of move the ball. And with Lev Bell there, kind of the revenge game narrative, when they get down towards the goal line, I expect them to kind of hand it off to Bell to score. So I expect them to move the ball through the air and then score most of their touchdowns actually in the run game if they get close. But with the Jets being so bad, it might be one of those Mecole Hardman, Tyreek Hill type days where they catch a few long bombs and then you get a 40-yarder and a 65-yarder in the same game as for touchdowns, and then they're not getting as many scoring opportunities for the running backs. Either way, I kind of play that by ear. I think the pass game is what you're going to want to attack in this particular matchup, and I think Mahomes actually is in play for this because I think they're going to score a few long bomb touchdowns, especially based off of that. Minnesota at Green Bay. We do have a couple red-green matchups here. Green Bay's pass rush pretty good. Minnesota's pass protection not very good. That means to me that Kirk Cousins isn't going to have a lot of time to throw it. Green Bay's defense is in play here. Cousins has been a turnover machine. This is supposed to be a super windy game as well, so I'm not exactly sure. We actually have 3 red-green matchups here, but I'm not exactly sure how often they're going to throw it, but Cousins, not the strongest arm in the league. I could see him being under duress, getting a ball that's floated somewhere. Green Bay's defense is definitely in play here. With that being said, the shorter underneath routes for Minnesota would be what I'd be looking for. Haven't paid attention enough to their games to understand who's running like the shorter routes or the longer routes, but Jefferson seems to be more underneath. So I'd be looking at maybe Jefferson, who's not going to be getting Jair Alexander on him, and Irv Smith, the tight end there from Minnesota, to be having those DFS, deep frickin' sleeper type plays this week. Another red-green matchup. Second in the league, Minnesota is at offensive run blocking. You might not know it because their offensive line is really bad. Green Bay actually not that good against the run. I do think Dalvin Cook in their first meeting had 2 touchdowns. He didn't move it particularly efficiently, but I think with the conditions the way it is and with the way that Zimmer coaches, I think that he's going to try to slow it down. And I would be looking at Dalvin Cook and Irv Smith to be having the bigger games, and potentially Jefferson with quite a few targets underneath in this game, just the way that the offensive line works. And then on the Green Bay side, you can see the run blocking is actually really good. Minnesota doesn't generate much pressure, and they just traded away Yannick Ngakoue, so they should be getting even less pressure. Green Bay's offense, Aaron Rodgers' arm, probably good enough to get it through the windy conditions, but doesn't really need it. He's got somebody that doesn't need to go deep to be having monster games, which is Devontae Adams. So in this game, I'd be attacking. Rodgers is definitely in play, and then I would be also looking at Irv Smith, Dalvin Cook, and potentially Justin Jefferson on that side. Jefferson's ceiling, I think, is pretty limited, but I think Dalvin Cook could score a few more touchdowns in this as they try to slow the game down. And Aaron Rodgers, I don't think will be as affected by the wind because he's going to be throwing it to Devontae Adams, who should be wide open, and he doesn't really necessarily run deep routes either. So that'd be the plays there. One red-green matchup, about as bad as it gets. First against the 31st, and you have LA Rams. Offensive run blocking is actually adjusted to number 1. Miami is 31st in defense against the run. I'm not exactly sure how good Miami's pass defense is, but it is like one of the top ones as far as allowing points in the passing game. And with this being set up the way it is, I think Henderson from the Rams, who's probably going to be the lead back there, could be in line for a monster game, and then he is cheaper on some of these slates. I don't expect this to be terribly high scoring, but I think they're going to be out of the way of any sort of terrible weather in this one too, which for this slate is going to be pretty important. Henderson would be somebody that I'd be locking into a lot of my lineups this week just based off of the offensive line play difference here and the fact that I expect the Rams to actually be up in this game. Vegas does too, 4-point favorites for the Rams, 4-point underdogs for Miami here. So look for Henderson to have the big game there. Nothing else is kind of popping out there as far as the red-green is concerned. And Tennessee, Cincinnati, got 2 of them here. Offensive pass protection for Tennessee, 3rd. Cincinnati's pass rush, 27th. Expect Tennessee, obviously, to have plenty of time to throw the ball. Cincinnati's defense is bad against everything across the board. All their line play is just atrocious. So look for A.J. Brown, probably have another deep bomb in this game. I would be 0% surprised if he catches another 60-plus yard touchdown in this game. Also, Tennessee run blocking 7th, Cincinnati against the run 25th. Look for A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry both. Typically, you don't want to stack wide receiver running back combos. In this case, I think you can do that. And Cincinnati is actually good enough on offense where I think they can score points on Tennessee. If you look at the pass protection for Tennessee, it is third, but their pass rush is 32nd. They are horrible at getting to the quarterback. The worst, obviously. Cincinnati not very good at pass protection, so that kind of cancels out. Usually people can trample all over Cincinnati, and Joe Burrow is getting sacked and fumbling and throwing interceptions because he's rushed, and he's just getting killed back there. But I don't think that's going to be the problem in this game. Tennessee's going to move the ball, quick strikes, moving down the field. Derrick Henry, 5 to 15-yard chunks at a time, maybe a 60-yarder. A.J. Brown being able to score whenever he wants, maybe on a long one. And then I have Cincinnati actually being able to keep pace in this. The only problem with this, Cincinnati's right in that line of bad weather where I think that could play an effect. And Joe Burrow doesn't have the absolute strongest, he's kind of a middle-of-the-road arm for NFL talent is concerned. So I expect them to kind of move the ball, have time, but I would look for Tyler Boyd and A.J. Green, who are running more of the underneath routes, to be having the bigger target game and probably being open and having the ball delivered where they want it. So I expect both of those guys to have 8 to 10 catch range, and then Higgins, if that weather isn't as bad, could also see 5 or 6 targets or more if it's not bad, but all three of those guys I think are in play. I would be looking more towards Boyd and A.J. Green as they're the more underneath routes, and if that weather is bad, which I am expecting it to be, that would be a strong play. So I'm attacking this one a lot. I think Burrow is going to have quite a few yards, and then I think A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry are both going to just smash in this game, and then bringing it back with Burrow and Boyd and A.J. Green is where I'm currently putting quite a bit of my lineup investment into. Any red-green matchups for LAC and Denver? Not really. Nothing in particular here standing out. Denver is pretty good on the pass rush. Chargers middle of the road against the pass protection, but nothing standing out in that lineup. New Orleans at Chicago, nothing standing out here as far as adjusted line play is concerned. We'll ignore that one. Red-green matchups for San Francisco and Seattle, nothing really standing out here either. And then we got Philly, Dallas, no other games, no other red-green matchups here, but we do have a number 4 Philly pass rush against Dallas, number 18 pass protection. And actually, if you look at their run blocking, they are 10th. But they lost Zach Martin. I don't think their offense pass protection. I think it's heading in the other direction towards the red end, and Philly's pass rush is pretty good. So Philly defense, and I don't know who they're going to be starting in Dallas, but if it is DiNucci, which it sounds like it's probably going to be, look at the safety blanket for any new quarterback is the tight end. So look at Dalton Schultz maybe to have 8 or 9 targets in this game as well. They're probably in line for these bad wind conditions as well, though. And the final game on the main slate, we got Tampa Bay at New York Giants, and we do have a red-green matchup here. Giants, 32nd run blocking, Tampa Bay, 2nd against the run. So New York Giants obviously aren't going to be passing the ball anywhere or running the ball anywhere. And then you look at Tampa Bay, 3rd in the pass rush. New York Giants is not red, but they are 19th in pass protection, which is towards the bottom end of the middle of the pack. I think Tampa Bay is going to be able to get after the Giants in this game. Might be a little bit windy, and you could see some wounded ducks in that game. And Danny Dimes just making a lot of mistakes. So Tampa Bay defense in this I like. As far as anything else is concerned on the adjusted line metrics, nothing's kind of popping out there. So Just to recap some of these, Las Vegas, Cleveland, we do have the 2 red-green matchups. I said underneath routes because the weather should be bad in Cleveland. So you're looking at Jarvis Landry and the tight end over there, Harrison Bryant, and then also Kareem Hunt. Red-green matchup, Indy, Detroit. Offensive pass protection for Indy, bad pass rush for Detroit. Longer bombs, you're looking at Ashton Doolin and especially Marcus Robinson. I do like Marcus Robinson. I have him in a few lineups already that I've made. I think he could pop off for 5 and 100 again, which is a pretty good deal for the price that you're going to get him at in most of your drafts here. Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Number 1 pass rush defense, number 1 defense adjusted line yards. I believe their defense actually is in play against Baltimore, whose run blocking and pass blocking is not very good. So look for Lamar Jackson on the Baltimore side to be under duress, throwing short routes to Devin Duvernay, and Mark Andrews also rushing more than typical. And then on the Pittsburgh side, you're probably going to have a pretty solid defensive game there, so you can start them in DFS, which they're kind of a play every week. New England, Buffalo, we have the green Buffalo pass protection against the red New England pass rush. Look for a deeper bomb. I would expect John Brown probably to have one. Kyle Allen can get the ball through the wind, and John Brown sounds like he's healthy, so look for that. Kansas City Jets, look for the Kansas City Chiefs to move the ball through the air. Pick your poison there. I think he's going to have plenty of time to throw the ball. I'm not sure what the wind's supposed to be like in Kansas City. Probably fine. A little bit windy. But Patrick Mahomes obviously fine with the arm there. So I'll be looking at Mecole Hardman, Tyreek Hill type guys to be moving the ball really quickly. 60 yards, 70 yards at a pop. And Minnesota, Green Bay, we got the 3 green matchups there. Looks like Cousins will be under duress. Short routes, looking at Irv Smith and probably Justin Jefferson. And then on the run blocking side, should be poor weather in Green Bay. We're looking at Dalvin Cook game probably. Zimmer's not that dumb of a coach. I think he's going to try to run the ball anyway, and Green Bay's not that good at stopping it. So Dalvin Cook, Irv Smith would be my top 2 from Minnesota, and then Justin Jefferson underneath passes if necessary. And then on the Green Bay side, we have pass rush number 8. Their defense is in play, especially in a game against Kirk Cousins. Then their run blocking is 8th in the league, which is pretty solid against Minnesota's poor run blocking. So Jamal Williams, if they need to run the ball too, or Aaron Jones, depending on who starts there. Rams against Miami, number 1 run blocking unit against the 31st rated adjusted line metric defense against the run. So look for Henderson there to be having a pretty solid game. And Tennessee, Cincinnati, looking at the offensive run blocking for Tennessee, green versus the bad defense from Cincinnati, and also the green pass protection against the even worse pass rush from Cincinnati. So A.J. Brown probably going to get a deep bomb in this, potentially if the weather cooperates, but I could still see him housing one, and then, or at least having plenty of time to throw the ball. Jonnu Smith would be somebody else that is probably going to be underneath if it's too windy out. He's probably going to get quite a few targets. And then I expect Derrick Henry probably just to absolutely smash in this game. On the Cincinnati side, they're going to have to keep up, I think, with the amount of points that Tennessee's scoring. So I think Burrow is going to get a bunch of underneath routes. Their pass blocking is horrible, but Tennessee's pass rush is even worse than Cincinnati's pass blocking. So I expect Burrow to be able to actually have some time to hit these guys on the shorter routes, or A.J. Green and Boyd would be people I'd be looking for there. And I think we had one more red-green matchup here, which is Tampa Bay Giants. Tampa Bay against the run is very good. Giants won't be able to run the ball, so they'll have to pass more often, and Tampa Bay's pass rush is 3rd overall. And the Giants are 19th in pass protection. So look for the Tampa Bay defense, and then also they should be scoring quite a few points and having possibly a pick six in that game. So I don't think you can go wrong with Tampa Bay's defense there. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Just some DFS plays that you can be able to do based off of the adjusted line ranking systems here. Hope you enjoyed it. Please smash the subscribe button. Leave a comment on any things that you'd like to see, or whether or not you think I'm an idiot for some of these picks that I've been saying to you guys. Thanks. Peace out from Zilla Fantasy Elite. Have a good one.